So here's the flow. I'm going to do basically 5 minutes of slides on partnerships, and then we're going to turn it over to our co-host Erica, who's got some very interesting stories about some of the partner events she's done. So I've just turned on the screen share, and I'm now taking us through a couple slides. So I think the first thing to think about when we're thinking about partnerships is basically having a brain trust of people we can turn to. And these can be a group of people who aren't necessarily co-organizers hosting your events, but rather are very connected people in the technology and nonprofit worlds. And these are the people you can turn to once or twice a year to ask for advice on potential upcoming topics. And these are also people you can come to help promote your events because they're going to have their own networks. So I would say take a look at the Brain Trust pages on the Zendesk, and I think there's a couple good pieces of advice in there. But basically the question is, why partner? And the answer is hopefully because it will make your life easier. If it does not make your life easier, I would say consider running away from that partnership. So sometimes a partnership can get more complex than it brings value to you, in which case I say run away. As volunteers, sometimes it's easier for us just to make sure that we're not getting caught up in something that drives us crazy. But a good partnership should help you because they may have their own audience, and therefore you can get more people out to events. They may also have access to experts that you don't have access to. And sometimes those partners will give you access to a venue. So those are three really core reasons why partnerships can be really helpful to you. And we'll talk about some of the examples of what those could look like. I would say some tips generally for keeping partners is one, always keep it simple. Once things turn into a big, complex, bureaucratic thing, which some organizations need to succeed, it may not be a perfect fit for your more informal NetSquared affiliated group. But your partnership is going to be way more successful if you are really clear on your expectations. So at the very beginning, you say we are going to, at this point, do exactly this thing. And then you define out your goals. So I would recommend against having everyone participate in all parts. We're all going to do the marketing. We're all going to do the planning of the event. The more you can split up the role, so each one of you owns separate pieces of the work completely, it means you don't have to spend all of your time in meetings and getting agreement because you have a bit more ownership of each part. And then I think the real key to this partner, and I hear from NetSquared organizers all the time, is being really clear in communication. Because the last thing you want is to show up at an event and have the partner think that you were supposed to do, no, you were supposed to do all the marketing. I'm no, I'm pretty sure it was you. So regular and clear communication is super important. And therefore, I would say, where possible, get on the phone and have a voice conversation with that partner because things can get sometimes lost in email and chat. But you get to hear people's worries when you actually talk with them on a phone. So I think that is a really useful shortcut to making sure you both understand each other.
Hey, Eli.
Go ahead, yeah.
Can I jump in on two of the things from... Okay, perfect. So, hi, everyone. My name's Erica Woods. I was part of the Baltimore NetSquared group for 4 years before moving to Florida. I'm now an organizer for the Tampa Bay NetSquared group. But two of these have been instrumental for success in partnering with different groups. First was around kind of the expectations. One thing to add to that is I would always meet the organizer or a co-organizer of the group I wanted to partner with over coffee first. So, trying to take it a step further from the phone, meet them in person if they were interested in the NetSquared group concept. And then clear expectations and communication was everything. After explaining our group and what we were trying to achieve, I would just say, here are the things I need. Here are the things I'm looking for. Can you help with any of these 4 areas? And that was everything in setting us up for success when we launched in Tampa Bay.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's really right. Like coffee is even better than a phone. Also, get you invigorated. So I think when we heard your introductions, we are actually hearing about several of the example partners I've been recommending. Obviously, several people were mentioning WordPress. Every city in the world pretty much has a WordPress meetup, and most nonprofits are on WordPress for their website. So there's a real strong potential there to bring those communities together. In the US, N10's got their nonprofit tech clubs in about 20 cities, which I think is another very useful ally and potential for joint events. And then for me, sometimes the easiest way to find a presenter is to partner with another meetup on the specific topic. So last time I wanted to do an event around Google Analytics, I actually went to the analytics meetup and recruited the presenter, like the host of that group, to be a presenter, and we did a joint event merging our two meetups, which was great because now I had 20 people who didn't know about my group before now showing up because they were part of that other meetup, and maybe I'm going to steal 2 or 3 of their members to join my group more permanently. So that was like another really great opportunity there. I also heard people talking about the Young Nonprofit Professionals Network. Again, it's largely US based, but it's a great way to reach nonprofit professionals who may not be tech focused, but are definitely deeply engaged in the nonprofit world. And if you want to reach fundraisers, you should reach out to your local Association of Fundraising Professionals, which has like chapters all over the place. And then most major technology platforms have local user groups. So I've also done partnered events where I did a Salesforce themed event with the local Salesforce meetup. So we got to bring a bunch of nonprofits together with Salesforce experts and do some partnering so they could find volunteers to help them manage their Salesforce installations. Here's another example of what I did in Vancouver. We have a Hootsuite office here, which means they have a whole team of social media coaches. And so we did an event called a social media tune-up at the Hootsuite office. So they hosted us, they brought the food, they brought the experts. All I really had to do was post the event on my meetup. And then what happened is we partnered nonprofits with these coaches for half-hour one-on-one consultations. Another example is we brought a bunch of our members into the local makerspace for what we really called a field trip. So everyone showed up at the makerspace and they taught us how to solder and helped out with building some devices that they were building within that makerspace. And so it was a fun hands-on event that really someone else did all the facilitation of. And again, I really just had to post it on our own meetup. And then another partnership I do every year is 2 or 3 organizations come together to do a potluck picnic in the Vancouver area. And so again, I really am posting it out there. I do some introductions. We find some people to like bring a barbecue, but otherwise everyone brings their own food and it's just a nice social for, in this case, nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, and people from the tech for good space. So we brought all these communities which are allies together, the open data people together for a potluck. So that's how I've done some of my partnered events here in Vancouver, but I want to send us over actually to Erica because she's got like actually a big event planned tonight, which I think is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, so I guess I will explain the structure of our event tonight, who we're partnering with, how I got all those relationships set up, and then I'll share our May event, which is also in partnership with our local Power BI and data meetup group. But so tonight's event for our Net2 Tampa Bay, Florida chapter is actually a website best practice roundtable discussion. And I am very happy that all 6 organizers of our 2 local WordPress meetup groups are RSVP'd for tonight, which is amazing. But how I got connected with the WordPress group, and it's great to hear that folks are already partnering with their local WordPress meetup group, because that's been by far the most beneficial partnership I've set up, first in Baltimore and now in Tampa Bay. So when I first moved to the area and we were starting our group last year, all I did was one quick hit Facebook post. I found the local WordPress meetup. I joined it. I joined their Facebook group, and one post changed everything for us and set us up for success. I posted something along the lines last year of, hey, I recently moved to Florida from Baltimore. In Baltimore, I was part of a Technology for Good meetup group that brought together nonprofits with technology folks who were interested in helping nonprofits pro bono. And I would love to start, something like that in Tampa Bay, but does anybody know of a group already that exists that's like this? And if not, who would be interested in helping out? And that one marketing post about, just again, clear expectations, here's what I want to do, and I put it in the right social media forum for the audience I was trying to target. I had 6 people within 1 hour that were like, how can I help? This is an amazing concept. How can I get involved? I ended up meeting one of the co-organizers of the group. I didn't realize she was a co-organizer, but Jen Novak. I ended up meeting her. She immediately sent me a message via Facebook Messenger, like, this sounds amazing. We've been talking about a way to help nonprofits. Like, let's meet up. So we met up for coffee, and she ended up being my first speaker, which was amazing. And then one of the other comments on the post came from this guy, Jim True, who has presented 2 different segments for us. He's one of the other organizers of the Tampa Bay WordPress meetup. He said, this sounds incredible. Can you come to our next meeting? Let's discuss. So again, the bottom line is when I moved from Baltimore to Tampa, I had no network. But because of lessons I had learned as part of the Baltimore group, I learned, okay, well, I'm going to need to have, before I start recruiting nonprofits and, doing outreach, I'm going to need to have support from the local WordPress community, since the majority of the nonprofits I've ever dealt with, their websites are in WordPress. And so as a result of just getting connected with that group, meeting some of the organizers, posting kind of a call to help and an interest, a call of interest, who would be interested in doing something like this, that's where I've probably now generated 50% or more of our volunteers and the majority of our speakers. And I try to attend at least one meetup group meeting for the WordPress group quarterly, so that I can continue to build a relationship with the organizers and the members of that particular group. Eli, anything you want me to, say there? Anything else you want me to expand on, or?
Yeah, so I think one thing I'd like to just mention is actually the WordPress community's got a template for nonprofit hackathons called Do Action. So there is actually, when you talk to a WordPress group, you can actually say, like, there is actually a guide to help you partner with nonprofits. And then you get to say, and what I can do is connect you to the nonprofit side of things. So you can start bringing these different pieces together to make life really easy. Like, what I'd love to hear from you, Erica, is that, so when people raised their hand and said, I want to help, like, how did you engage with those people? Did you give them specific roles? How did that proceed?
So we have a 4-slide slide deck that I use to explain Net2 Tech for Good group to potential technology folks that are interested in getting involved in volunteering. And I don't know if you want to make that available, what I typically use, but that's kind of my go-to 5-minute elevator pitch about the group, if you will, when I'm talking at meetings like that. But the 4 specific ways that I communicated to people and how they could help is, number 1, we're looking for folks that are interested in presenting and speaking. Here's some of the sample topics that have been really, really popular. And we started our first meeting with social media, because anything around social media has always been the most popular topic for any of the groups, the 2 groups that I've been involved in, followed by topics related to websites. So that was kind of the first way they could contribute as a speaker. The second is just come out. Our goal is to host a monthly event. We're going to have a mixture of nonprofits as well as technology folks in the room that want to help and give advice to nonprofits. So just join our meetup group and attend any of our events. Number 3, you can help with outreach. So, who knows a nonprofit in the room? And I always do a show of hands, like raise your hand if you are involved with a nonprofit or know a nonprofit. Raise your hand if you know another technology professional who's been looking for something like this, who's been interested in volunteering and helping, through skills-based volunteering. Who knows of somebody who could host us? That was kind of our next need. We're looking for space. Who knows companies or organizations that would host our meetings for free. And then just, again, general promotion. Here's all of our channels. We have a Facebook group. We have a Twitter handle. We have our meetup group. Those are our 3 major channels. I'm constantly sharing on a weekly basis something to help promote our group and explain who we are and what we do. Please, even if you don't have the time to commit, but you like this concept, share those posts, share with your network, this event. And I also did a LinkedIn post introducing our Tampa Tech for Good group via LinkedIn at the time. And I said, like and share this post that I've already put up. Does that help, Eli?
That's really fabulous. I think what you've really created out there is basically a ladder of engagement or participation from the, here's a small, easy thing you can do right now, up to the, I'm looking for a presenter for an event. And I think being really clear about exactly how people can help rather than just saying, I need help, is much more welcoming to people. It gives them a real sense of like, oh, okay, now I can envision what you're asking for and can figure out whether I'm the right fit for that. So I really like that model, and building that into every event, I think is really important and a great piece of advice.
Yeah. And it's good to be consistent about kind of what your needs are because they change. So when I first launched the Baltimore group and then the Tampa Bay group followed suit, it was the same problem. Our number one need wasn't more technology people that were there to help. It wasn't finding space. It wasn't finding sponsors to, sponsor the food for our meetings. It was finding nonprofits to help. So I was very clear, like, hey, our number one need is outreach and communicating our Tech for Good group to the nonprofit community. Does anybody have a recommendation? And that's how I eventually learned about the 3 main channels in which I've now been able to do outreach of our group to the nonprofit community, including 1 Million Cups. So 1 Million Cups I actually just heard about recently. Are you familiar with them, Eli, or is anyone on the line familiar with 1 Million Cups?
Not me over here in Vancouver. Anyone else? If so, you can throw something into the chat window as well.
So 1 Million Cups, they have chapters across the world, but essentially it's kind of like a Shark Tank for new organizations. So nonprofit groups, new businesses, etc. But every week, it gives 2 different organizations the opportunity to do a plug-in to a huge room. So because I first made my interest known, like, hey, we need more nonprofits, I got invited to present about our NetSquared Tech for Good group at 1 Million Cups in Tampa Bay last Wednesday. And there were about 50 to 55 people in the room, including 3 nonprofit representatives, all of which have joined our group, and about 10 technology folks. And so, again, making my interest known, my number one need right now is to get connected and educate the nonprofit community about our group. How can I do that outreach? And then this is, again, one of 3 opportunities and organizations that I learned about that I have since gotten connected to do outreach. And what's cool about 1 Million Cups, if anybody else on the line has a similar problem that I had, which is getting enough nonprofits to show up, we have never had a shortage of technology people there donating their time. It's always been a shortage of nonprofits. I would highly, highly recommend joining 1 Million Cups. And then you can submit a proposal to speak, and you'll get 6-minute presentation time, and then it's a 20 to 25-minute Q&A, which was incredible. And again, I did this last Wednesday, so very fresh. And I mean, we've had probably 20 people join our meetup group. I don't know how many of those came from 1 Million Cups, but I definitely had, 3 new nonprofits, 2 of which I believe are RSVP'd to attend tonight's meeting as a result of this one kind of plug-in I did.
Right. And what I'm really hearing as a common theme is one of the ways you're going to drive people's attendance is you are going to have to go to other events and find, because most of them will, if you ask, give you 5 minutes before an event, whether it's in a formal space or not, to basically make your pitch about the community and members you're looking for your own group. I think I heard on the chat that I think it was in Austin, there's also social media breakfasts, which sounds like another kind of place to turn to, like to find people who sort of care about that tech for good digital marketing work.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a social media breakfast in Tampa Bay, but we have a social media lover Facebook group. So when we first launched here, I had this kind of like 1-paragraph template about who we are. Hey, Tampa Bay is launching a tech soup, Net2 Technology for Good group with the goal of, hosting a monthly event that brings technology and digital marketing professionals together to help nonprofits with their technology and digital marketing strategy and needs pro bono. If this is of interest to you, join our meetup group and join our Facebook group. And we had a couple social media folks join from that post, 2 in particular who have been absolutely incredible volunteers for us. So that, I guess, is another best practice. Have a standard, effective 1-paragraph overview, like your marketing post that explains who your group is, what you're trying to accomplish, that then links to where you want them to go. And I probably use that one marketing post and put it in 15 different technology Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, other meetup groups, etc.
Perfect. That's really helpful. We've got about 5 more minutes until our scheduled wrap, which if you've got a story of a local partnership you'd like to share with the rest of us, you can use the raise hand function here in Zoom, or you can just drop something into the chat window and I'll call you out. So if you got a story of a local partnership you've done, you thought had an interesting lesson to learn from that, love to hear from it.
And one more I want to add that I didn't think about initially, but has been so powerful for us both in Baltimore and Tampa Bay, is partnering with our local coding school. So most cities will have a local coding school. There's tons out there, like a programming boot camp. A lot of those coding schools are nonprofits in of themselves, but they actually have been offered to host us whenever we have a meeting. And they've also been a great source of technology folks who come out as volunteers. So I wanted to make sure I gave a plug in, finding a local coding school.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I've had similar success here in Vancouver with something called the Red Academy, which, again, has partnered us with both digital marketing people for both workshop delivery, and also they've offered their venue as well. And they also have a program where they actually partner their students with local nonprofits to build websites. So I think there's a number of different ways you could explore those local partnerships.
Oh yeah, that's been huge too. The whole goal of a coding school is to, put people through this programming computer science boot camp, and then any additional experience they can get is just so huge for their resume. So we've had a lot of folks who graduated the boot camp, or even while they're in the part of the coding school, they've gotten involved not only because they want to give back, but because they also want that additional experience for their resume.
Carolyn, I'd like to put you on the spot. You're mentioning here that you actually are using your venue partner as also a way to source guest presenters, which I think is a crafty way to both bring value to the venue partner, but also to solve some of your problems. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
We actually we linked up with Capital Factory when, well, after I had been attending their events, and I would live tweet them, and I was just fascinated personally about technology. I've been an N10 member for 10 years. And so I go to them, and even though that was kind of small business startups, I kind of became a regular, I would say. So I then talked to him. I said, "Look, I've been a volunteer for the nonprofit tech club, and um, we really need a regular meeting space. So they said, "Oh yeah, you can meet up here," and they actually have some other meetups that were doing it. But I would say also, even though they're kind of starting up small businesses, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are fairly wealthy that affiliate with Capital Factory, but they also wanted to increase their social good nonprofit presence, and to be inclusive of not just business for profit, but also nonprofit. So they let us get on there, and we kind of go out, since I knew them already, we go out of our way to include their name, which they love having their name all over Twitter and everything. They're real active on Twitter. And so we go out of our way to thank them, but really the value of what they offer us is incredible. We could never afford to meet there regularly, I would say. So that has been a really great partnership. And then they actually adopted some social good partners who are starting up their Upbring Innovation Lab. We had a talk by them this year, and they just kind of heard about us, that we were meeting, and they said, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And then also Give Pulse, which is a volunteer coordination platform that it's now being used by universities mostly, I would say, all over the United States, but it's real active here, and they're tied in now in comes to promoting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So they're really very big picture. So, and I think there's girls who code local chapter there and such. So they kind of watch, and they kind of want to be attending our events. So we make ourselves open to anybody. And I would say this: social media breakfast, that I put the link here on the chat, they're very small business oriented. It's sort of like learn social media without having to hire a big giant PR firm. And so that's how I learned social media. Actually, I was living in San Antonio just for a couple of years, and I hooked up with them, and I learned so much. They were oriented toward helping small businesses get the word out about their services, and but I, of course, translated that to my own nonprofit work. So I really kind of learned social media from them. But anyway, there you go. That's it. But I would say startups and startup entrepreneurs are a natural fit for nonprofit tech clubs and Net2 and all of these groups. They get technology. They're like promoting the use of technology themselves. So if you kind of find a little hub that's like an entrepreneurial hub there, that's really looks like it's just for business, you might be surprised. I think WeWork is really strong in that. And they actually house General Assembly, which is a coding and digital marketing training center. So they all want us to meet over there. And in fact, we actually got a discount, 50% off classes through the end of the year at General Assembly, just because I got in a conversation and said, we kind of want to know, nonprofits need to get trained in all this same stuff that businesses need.
So people are fighting over you now and your community.
Pardon?
People are fighting over you. They all want, a little bit of time with, the Austin Tech for Good group.
They want people to know they care about society, they care about important issues in the nonprofit sector, and I love that.
Awesome. So we've now hit time here. I'm so grateful to Erica for coming in and sharing her stories. And my goal is to host a similar kind of conversation once a month on a different topic each time. So if you're super excited about anything to do with how do we build and manage our local communities, I'm always looking for people who want to put up their hand and say, like, I want to co-host the next month's event. I think probably July is going to be a bit of a TechSoup tour, speaking about some of the newest products in the validation program. But I think by August, we're going to be starting to look at new events. So if you got anything, send me a quick email and we'll work together on building out what that topic could look like. Otherwise, thank you all for joining me today, especially those who came in quite late in their evening. And if you have any other questions, of course, reach out to me by email, by WhatsApp, by whatever. I will be there to respond to you and engage with you because I'm such a big fan of the work you're doing in your own community. And with that, let me shut it down. Y'all.
Thanks, Eli.